Hello there and welcome to another Classic Golf Clubs video. When the idea for this video came to me, I thought it would only be a short episode, but it's become just as long-winded as most of the other stuff I've done. So without further ado, let's begin. The idea was to cover the change from the 1.62 inch ball to the 1.68 inch ball in those countries governed by the R&A, which is effectively the UK and the rest of the world, excluding the Americas. This started to lead me down the path of the distance debate, and I was going to add some historical background on that too, but the video was getting too long, so I might cover the distance side in a future episode. This video will be in two parts. Firstly, how the ball sizes arrived and the subsequent change in ball size, and secondly, some on-course trials using an old 1.62 inch Dunlop 65 ball. In golf's early years, the ball size was defined not by any rules but by playing experience. Too big and the ball wouldn't fly far enough in the air. Too small and it would be too difficult to hit. And likewise the weight evolved to give the best balance of playing characteristics. The first golf balls were probably made of wood, but the best known early ball is the feathery. And this is a ball made from 3 pieces of leather stitched together and stuffed very tightly with feathers to make a hard, hopefully spherical ball. In 1848 the gutta percha ball was introduced, better known as the gutty. Gutta percha is a natural material obtained from the gum or sap of the gutta percha tree. An interesting fact about the gutty ball was that it was generally larger than today's ball and that it floated, meaning that its density was less than today's ball. The next introduction was the Haskell wound rubber ball around 1900. This much more responsive material revolutionised the distance the ball was being hit, requiring courses to be lengthened and hazards moved, all at great cost. There was a lot of debate at the time about distance, and there has been ever since. The size and weight of the ball are 2 key factors influencing this, and they play a part in this video. Let's take a quick and very unscientific look at how size and weight affect the ball flight. Once a ball is in flight, the key reason it slows down is drag. Drag is an aerodynamic force that acts on an object as it passes through a fluid, in our case a ball travelling through the air. Opposing this drag is kinetic energy trying to keep the ball in motion. The larger size of the American ball creates greater drag, and the higher density of the British ball creates more kinetic energy per unit volume. Hence, all other things being equal, the British ball travels further through the air. The size of the golf ball wasn't regulated until 1921, when the R&A and the USGA agreed on a maximum diameter of 1.62 inches and a maximum weight of 1.62 ounces. I believe that this was the first attempt to restrict equipment distance by the rules. But not long after, in 1929, the USGA stated that after further research, it had found that a minimum diameter of 1.68 inches and a maximum weight of 1.55 ounces was best suited to American course conditions. They changed the rule under the countries governed by the USGA. But after only a year and much complaint from golfers, they amended the weight requirement back to the previous 1.62 ounces maximum while retaining the new minimum diameter of 1.68 inches. And that has been the case in America ever since. In countries where the R&A managed the rules, however, the 1.62 inch minimum diameter and the 1.62 ounce maximum weight remained. This applied to pretty much the rest of the world, excluding the Americas. But it's interesting to note, though, that the size limit is a minimum, so the American ball of 1.68 inches was, and always has been, legal under the R&A rules. And in Britain, after the Second World War in 1946 and before ball makers had geared up for peacetime ball production, an opportunity to unify the ball size was available. Roger Wethered, a champion amateur golfer and long-time member of the R&A Rules Committee, admitted later that he made a mistake of being talked out of supporting a move to go to the American-sized ball. The moment was lost, and it was not until much later that Britain came fully into line again with the Americans. In 1952, the RNA and the USGA together released for the first time a joint code for the rules of golf. However, the ball size still could not be agreed on, and so the two ball sizes remained. So when Americans came to play in the Open, for instance, most of them, including the big names like Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, would use the smaller British ball, even though they were used to playing the American ball and were entitled to use it in the Open. The reason they did this was that the smaller ball had a distance advantage, as we've seen, and it was also less affected by the winds that are commonplace on links courses where the Open is held. In a similar vein, when competitors who were governed by the RNA travelled to America, they had to switch to the larger ball, as the smaller ball was illegal. A strange state of affairs that would probably still be with us now, if rumblings hadn't started to be made in Britain, that playing with the smaller ball was holding back British golfers on the world stage and keeping them from performing well in major competitions and the Ryder and Walker Cups. There then began a long and drawn-out argument over why the RNA should or should not change to the American ball specification. If we look at some magazines from the time, we can see some of the arguments that were made. First off, from May 1964, we've got an article by John Stobbs talking about how the big ball actually plays. And in it, he says that his impressions suggest to him that the 1.68-inch ball is for ordinary golfers a vastly more enjoyable ball to play with. Moving on a little bit further, we might think that the 1.62-inch ball was played exclusively in the UK, but here we can see an advert from Penfold that their Penfold patented ball is available in both British and American sizes. And an interesting article here by the King himself, Arnold Palmer. In it he states that the main differences between the big ball and the small ball are in the distance they fly and roll, but also the amount of action or spin they will take. John Jacobs, that great English teaching professional, was for a very long time a proponent of the large ball, and in this article he states quite categorically, "Until we use the big ball for all professional events, we shall never be in the same league as the Americans in the actual striking of the ball, and one really looks to the PGA to take the lead now and make the large ball compulsory for all PGA events." That was in 1968. And indeed, that's what happened. The PGA did make the large ball compulsory for 3 years as an experiment. Next up, we've got the big ball, arguments for and against, from two of the Golf World magazine contributors. And here we've got another article, this one from 1968 as well. The first of several tests carried out for Golf World, in which he compares the 1.68-inch ball and the 1.62-inch ball. And here we can see some tabular results of the experiences gained playing the two balls on a couple of different holes. And another interesting angle that was used at the time was to get some of the TV stars to test the ball and to give their experience. Here we've got Cliff Mitchellmore doing just that. And here in this magazine from 1970, we can see that the PGA have finished their 3-year experiment, and it's now down to the decision to be made as to whether they continue with the 1.62-inch or the 1.68-inch. And in this 1971 magazine, we can see some comments made about another suggestion that was made at the time, which was to assume that this was so that no advantage was gained by the US or Britain, and the suggestion was to have a halfway house, a minimum size of 1.66 inches, which is, when you think about it, a pretty ridiculous suggestion, and luckily that one faltered very quickly. Although there were sample balls made and quite a few tests were carried out with them. Right, moving on to 1974, and at this time the RNA made it compulsory for the use of the 1.68 ball in that year's open competition. Up until then, the players had the choice of the 1.62 or the 1.68. And here in the August 1974 magazine we can see the results from that competition. And there's no massive climb in scoring. Scoring is still very competitive. Gary Player wins by 4 strokes from Peter Oosterhouse. Jumping forward a little bit now and on to 1982, and we can see here a list of the balls that were available to golfers at the time. And it's interesting to note that most manufacturers, including the big American manufacturers, offer both 1.62 and 1.68 inch balls. This was also the time that coloured balls were starting to appear in some pretty horrendous colours, it must be admitted. And the final one that I've got here is from 1983, and this states or mentions a rumour that was circulating at the time that the 1.62 ball was about to be banned and the 1.68 ball made compulsory. But this wasn't actually the case, but the RNA was making the 1.68 ball compulsory in all the competitions that they run. And it wasn't until 1990 that the 1.62 ball was finally made illegal, and the minimum size for all balls became 1.68 inches. Right, onto the course. Let's see if we can use that 1.62 inch ball. These are the clubs I'll be playing. I haven't done a review of them because obviously there isn't time. Quite windy today as per usual, so a lot of voiceover. Here on the first hole I'm hitting a 3-iron. Bit of a thin strike and it goes about 170 yards, but straight up the middle, which was the main objective. Next shot was a 4-iron and I caught that pretty well. Just found the front edge of the green, I think. Here we are. Well, not quite the front edge of the green, but I'm chipping. Not a great chip, but pretty good for me. And that's got me to about 20 feet. This for a par outside chance. Not too bad. Should be a straightforward bogey, which puts me at 1 over. Hello, and here we are for the small ball test. I've just played the first hole, as you've seen. Scored a bogey, not too bad. The Dunlop 65 felt a little bit soft, so it's probably showing signs of its age. It's a cold day, about 4 degrees centigrade, probably, not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, 37, 38. We'll have a quick look at the bags I've got in the clubs I've got in the bag today, because I've not reviewed those, so here's a very quick look at them. There we go, Dunlop Max Fly Australian Blade, absolute classic set. I will do a full review on these in the future. I've got my favourite John Letters Golden Goose for the putter and the woods. I've got 1, 3, 4 Walter Hagen, the Hague Laminated Maple. Let's go on to the next hole. And the next hole is a par 3 and I'm hitting an 8-iron. Reasonable shot, and it finds the front edge of the green. You can see where the pitch mark was, so the ball stopped pretty quickly, mainly due to the soft green, I would imagine. Birdie chance. Not quite, but an easy par, and that leaves me at 1 over. Right, I'm now going to do a very unscientific test. I realise you should hit lots of shots with a ball or a club to test it. I'm just going to hit one shot with the balls that I've got here, just to compare them. And starting with the ball that I'll be playing in the round, the 1.62 inch British size Dunlop 65. I don't know what date this one actually is. I would say possibly 1970s. I've also got here a Maxfly HT90, that will be 90 compression. I think this one is a little bit out of shape looking at it, but we'll see how it plays. And I'm not sure what date that is. I'll bring the dates up in a little bit of text somewhere down here if I can find out exactly what they are. We've then got a Titleist Tour Distance 90. So that's another 1.68 ball, wound ball I believe. We've then got a Penfold Commando, very budget ball, and one that's remembered, I'd like to say with fondness, but I'll probably be telling a lie there. It's a bit of a joke ball really for a lot of people. And finally we've got here a modern ball, which is a Strixon soft feel ball I like to play with old clubs. Any of the soft balls, Callaway Super Soft, Titleist soft balls, they just feel better off the clubs, and I think they protect the woods better as well. So we'll see how they all perform on the course. Well, just to add, I should be hitting a driver on this hole, but I think I'll be more consistent if I hit a 5-iron, so that's what I'm going to hit. Dunlop 65. Maxfly HT90. Titleist Tour Distance 90. Penfold Commando. I think that was the worst of the strikes, and as you can see by the trajectory, it was a fairly low flight. Strixon soft feel. Okay, well, I don't know whether you can see those balls, but there's two there, another one a bit further back, and two there. So they're all pretty similar really, and amazingly all on the fairway. Let's see what we've got now. We'll be looking example. That's the Penfold Commando, 154 yards, 155 it's just corrected to. Maxfly HT90, 160 yards. I'll get my Dunlop in a moment because that's the one I'll be playing the hole with. Here's the next one. And that is the Titleist Tour Distance 90, 178 yards. This will be the Strixon, no doubt. Strixon, 180 yards. Back over to the Dunlop. $173 yards. In my excitement to record all those, I forgot to record the next shot, which was a 5-iron and got me down to here, where I hit another 5-iron. Pretty good strike, and it just made it to the front edge of the green. Left me this long putt. Which I left a little bit short. Hopefully I'll get that one in. Yep, so that's another regulation par, still 1 over. 3 holes played, haven't lost the ball yet. Time to hit the 1.62 with a wood. This was a bit of a low squirter and it only went about 170 yards, just over I think, into the rough, and I played a 4-iron. Playing into the wind, I caught it well and it went 162 yards. Left me a nice length for a pitching wedge. But unfortunately I hit it a little bit heavy and it came up just short. Just short of the green, long putt to go, but as I'm just off it will count as a chip, so it should help my putting stats. A decent long range putt which got me to here and a chance for a bogey, so I was a little bit annoyed to see that one go by, and I carded a double bogey, putting me on 3 over par for the round so far. Next hole, par 4, and I hit the 3 wood. A little bit low and it went 175 yards. Left me 173 and I took the 3-iron and thinned it. Very poor shot, something had to go wrong soon, and it left me 90 yards to go. So another one with the pitching wedge. This time I hit it well and got it fairly close to the green, fairly close to the hole I mean. Left me a par opportunity. Didn't quite happen, but a nice simple tap-in bogey, which puts me at 4 over after 5 holes. Final hole, par 3, and I'm hitting a 7-iron. Caught this one well. Shot tracer seemed to lose it a little bit, and I had to sort of make a slight adjustment on the track path, which is why it's a funny shape. Low down camera angle for my birdie putt. Just lacking a little bit in pace, but a simple tap-in par, which left me at 4 over for the 6 holes. So, experience of the 1.62 inch ball. It was not too bad to play. This particular one was in very good condition. I think you might have noticed that the flight was pretty straight. Certainly it moved less in the air than the 1.68 inch ball. In play it is noticeably smaller than the ball that we're used to. But you soon get used to that after a few shots, and then it's just a matter of going ahead as usual. Playing with an old 1.62 inch ball relies to a very high degree on how the ball is kept over the years. I've got here a Dunlop Warwick ball which I acquired in a bag of used golf clubs. It looked in very good condition when I got it. I went to play a game with another classic club enthusiast, and we were both going to play 1.62 balls. I hit this ball twice in the net and it didn't behave very well at all really. We can see there straight away that the cover has cracked. It's also very out of shape now. If I try and roll it, you can see that it doesn't roll at all well. It's become, I can't even keep it in one spot, it's become out of shape, deformed, just with 2 shots, and that was with a 6-iron I think it was. If you've seen some of my videos, you'll know that I'm not the most powerful hitter, so this can only be down to the fact that this ball has deteriorated over the years, and it's just into a state where it's not worth playing anymore. It might be interesting to sort of peel away some of this cover at some time and see what's in there, but it looks as though it's a wound ball, just not been stored in a very good condition. Oops, off again. And to finish, we'll just take a look at the ball that I played during the 6 holes shown in the video, which was this Dunlop 65 1.62 inch ball. And you can see that unlike the Dunlop Warwick, this one has retained its shape. It's not got a split cover or anything, so either it was a better quality ball to start with, which I think is the case. The Warwick was more of a budgetary ball, but it was also stored in good conditions. And if I bring the book in again, we can see that it still rolls in a natural way, rather than the Dunlop Warwick ball, which was very badly deformed.